Building a board game collection is going to feel overwhelming, so in this episode of WeAreBoard Podcast, we're breaking down our top picks for collection starter games. The ones that are great for new gamers, versatile for different groups, and will always hold up over time. Whether you're just starting out or helping a friend build their shelf, these games are solid first editions. In our Spotlight of the Week, we take a deep dive into Detective City of Angels, a game of crime, deduction, and interrogation. With unique mechanics like the Chisel and noir storytelling, we discuss what makes this game stand out and who it's best suited for. Now join us for another fun conversation about board games. Who knows, you might just find the perfect game to kick off your collection. Welcome back to the WeAreBoard Podcast. We are your hosts, Tona,
Aaron,
Victor,
and we're going to be talking about some awesome board games we got to play, starting with our segment, off the shelf. Get those board games off the shelf of shame and let's get them to the table. Aaron, did you get anything played off the shelf this time?
Yeah, so we had a big weekend of board games, and the one that really got off the shelf was SETI. So SETI, or Search for
Ooh.
Extraterrestrial Intelligence, designed by Tomas Holik and published by Czech Games Edition. You lead a scientific institution responsible for searching the traces of life beyond planet Earth. The game is played over 5 rounds and consists of either launching ships and moving them towards planets to eventually land on or orbit, scanning star systems from Earth and additional locations to get data, paying to play cards that will allow you to do additional actions or start a mission, or use your popularity to upgrade your player board, allowing for more advanced actions. As you land on planets, scan enough star systems, and spend your data, you'll be able to use these tokens to unlock alien species who add more cards and more point spaces to add your achievement tokens. So we played this game at 4 players, and it took us around 4 hours to get through it with the teach. Only because there was a bit of analysis paralysis with newer players. They were a little bit newer to like this type of heavy of a game. While there seems to be a lot of stuff you can do, you're really restricted by your turns on how many resources you can generate and all that good stuff. So my strategy going into the game, I ended up getting second, even though I thought I was going to get like distant last, was anytime you have like starting resources, I always try to go for whatever they give you the least of. So you started off with 3 money or currency that the game calls it, 2 energy, and then like 1 card. So like my very first move was to like start tucking cards because I was like, oh, these cards have to be like what the engine is, right? And so no, they were not. Like it was really really beneficial to like scan and get data, because like when you scan and get data, you're basically working towards 2 of the 3 things that like I'll just say like the aliens like. And so the person who was playing with me, like he was doing that, and he was just like popping points, popping points, popping points. And so he was pretty much in the data game, and I was just like, well, then I'll just be on like the landing game. And so he would over, like 4 of his turns score like 60-ish points. And like in 2 of my turns, I'd be like, all right, cool, this is worth 25 points. This is worth like 35 points. And so it was like a lot of ebb and flow, but it was just like I have to wait so long to like get these big points while he's like consistently getting more points. And so he was the one who ended up winning by, I want to say like 30 points, which, in the grand scheme of things, it was like maybe if I landed on like 1 more planet or accomplished like 2 more missions, like I would have gotten a little bit closer. But yeah, have you guys heard of SETI?
Bro, the hype is so real for me for SETI, bro. It's literally sitting on my customer hold, just waiting to get it released, get shipped to me. It's this designer who, he's been popping them out like crazy, dude. He also is the one that designed Galileo Galilei that's gonna be dropping here like later this year. And his I've heard so much hype over SETI. Like I want to play it so bad. I've heard that like there's like room for expansions because of like the different alien races that they could introduce. And like based off of like the videos I've seen, like it has like great table presence. It does have like that like a circle, right? Like a modular
Yes.
board type of thing.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. And I guess the one question I have for you is like I keep hearing like scoop. What is that?
Scoop. That is a good question. I have no idea what scoop means.
Okay, fair enough.
Damn, I mean, you're talking to second place, so
Yeah.
Dang.
no, dude, it's live right now. It is number 3 on the hotness on BGG, and it's probably come down recently. It was probably number 1 at a certain point. It looks spicy as hell. And I think the thing that sounds really cool to me is the different alien races and the fact that it's like a mystery what the aliens are, and it gets revealed at a certain point during the game. And I guess did that feel like it made it more exciting or just like less strategic because you couldn't plan out ahead of time?
Well, I mean, I feel like it made it more like Runaway. So like, there's definitely no rubber band effect. So if you are kicking somebody's butt, like once you unlock the aliens, that gap can really, really get like sizable. So the dude who I was playing with who ended up winning. So how it normally works is like when you unleash like when you find the aliens are just like, hey, for every person who contributed, you get like this perk. And so he did like all 3 contributions. And so he got like 3 perks. And we are just like, oh well, that's not good. But it legitimately is just like extra cards that do like supercharged card movements. And you have to pay like a different currency because it's like currency was always very, very hard to come by. So like base, you would start with $3 and cards would range from zero to like $3 and sometimes like they would be like $4. But if you're spending $3, you're doing like three different actions. But it's like you better have like a good card engine in order to, be able to do other things. So let's say like you have the option to launch a spaceship. Well, you have to like move it. So you have 2 ways to move it. You can either discard a card with like a free satellite move, or you have to like pay energy. But it's like you have low energy. So it's just like, well, I need to like, conserve my energy because energy is what you also need to land on these planets. So it's like there's a whole lot of stuff working against you. And then when it comes to like components and table presence, every time somebody upgrades like one of their skills, like through popularity, the board rotates. So basically, like the inner rings rotate, then it'll be I guess like the innermost outer rings rotate, and then like all of it rotates. So if you have like a little probe that's just out there hanging out, it might get pushed into like an asteroid field. And in order to get out of asteroid fields, you have to spend 2 energy or 2 movement points to get out of them. So like it gets kind of advantageous. You have to have like a lot of good board, like board awareness, but it's hard to kind of plan for what people are going to be doing because you just never know where your probe's going to be. And like you never want to just be like left in space because it's just like, well, this probe is kind of just out there chilling. And then there's a probe limit, so like you really have to take care of like you really have to take your time planning out going to planets and doing what you need to do in a pretty quick fashion. But it's also very expensive.
Based off of that, how scarce would you say, getting resources?
Knowing now what I know, and if anybody ever plays SETI, tuck as many cards as you can up front because your income phase starts based at your income is based on the cards that you tuck. And so the person who got like lapped by both me and the dude who won, like she had 0 tucked cards. So her entire like income for the entire game was 3 money, 2 energy, and like 1 card. And like to be completely honest, I was getting 4 cards at round 2, and like I was out of cards, out of like resources, probably by like my third move because it was just like there's only so much you can realistically do.
Is it a table hog or not really?
I wouldn't say it's a table hog in the standpoint of the board's not like incredibly big and all the pieces play together. So it's like the score track literally wraps around the board. The board in the middle is, I don't know, I think it's like a pretty standard size. And then like your little player mats are nice because it's something I wish Terraforming Mars did, where they had like when you put your little cubes down and like one bump could like slide all of them off. This game has those I want to say like those Venus flytrap things where it's like a flap goes down and keeps everything kind of together. So that's nice, but it's also one of those things where it's like if you really really wanted to, like you could just bring like a side table, pick it up, hold it in your hand. Those components aren't moving anywhere.
I see. I see. Well, I mean, the board looks really cool, and just the whole theme, and you introduce aliens. I don't know. It all sounds really intriguing.
Hmm.
And it sounds like it's fairly a fairly heavy game, so it kind of really piques my interest to at least give it a try. Is this something you think you might Want to try again?
I'd want to try it again for this, but like this is a game with very, in my opinion, minimal player interaction. So if somebody has like a really good engine, there's really not much you can do to stop them.
Mm.
And it's like it's also one of those games where it's like it's not point salady enough to where you need to invest in different strategies. It's kind of just like figure out what you want to do and then just only do that and like really really focus on that. I think like where it might get hairy is if somebody invests in something else. Me and oh boy who won, he invested in the basically like the tech strat, and then I was pretty much invested in the landing on the moon strat, like landing strat, and then everybody else was kind of just like trying to figure it out.
Yeah, you said that it took y'all 4 hours with Teach, which honestly, for the first time playing something this heavy, it's not really surprising.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think you could get that down lower?
Oh,
If so,
100%.
how low do you think it could go?
Oh, 2 hours. The next time playing with the same people, 2 hours easily.
Oh, okay. Okay, so like once you get some like veterans of SETI, then it could be like a 2 hour shindig.
Yeah, and it's more so like being able to adapt and commit to a strategy and not really want to pivot. Because it's one of those things where it's like when you look at a lot of heavy Euros, especially where it's just like, oh, you have like 15 different paths to victory. It's like, oh, I kind of want to like dabble in one. For me, I've
Hmm.
learned that that is like the quickest way to get like 10 points in like a 95-point game. So it's just like I pick one direction. I'm just like, how do I continue to go down this direction? And it's like, what's going to help me get there faster?
Okay, cool. Well, that's SETI. Search for extraterrestrial intelligence. This past weekend, I actually went and hung out with some in-laws, and we had to party like it was 1990 again, and we broke out a game called Heroes of Barcadia. It's designed by Alex Wolf and Adam McCrimmon. It's 2 to 6 players. If you have the expansion, you can go up to, I believe, 8 players, which we did. And basically, Heroes of Arcadia is a dungeon crawling party game where players, will take the role of different characters, adventurers with major weakness, right? What's kind of cool about this game is the fact that it comes with pint glasses for every single person that plays this game, and it's not just to fill it with your favorite brew, but it's also going to end up being your health. So it goes up to 50 health points. So you start off the game with 50 health points, and basically all of you are well, you're not really working together, but you're searching this hex dungeon. As you move the cups to the different hexes, you turn over the hex and you basically do whatever the hex is. You get there's like 3 different kinds of hexes usually. There's going to be monsters. There's going to be treasures that you can get, or power-ups basically. They're called loot cards, not treasures. Sorry about that. And so basically, when you get a loot card, you just get a loot card that'll basically be like a one-time use sort of thing. If you get a power-up, it's basically like a passive that sticks with your character. And then if you get a monster, you have to basically roll a die to try and beat the monster's number. If you beat it, you get whatever rewards the monster has. Honestly, it's very much like Munchkin, just in the fact of like having to roll the dice to see if you can beat a monster or not. But again, what's kind of cool about it is that now you get drinking involved, and you're basically trying to stay alive. Um, the monsters end up basically, being from fairly easy beating them to very difficult. And the way that you win the game is you have to fight the drink horde, the drink guardian, basically. Basically, he has like a very high level that you have to roll to beat. I believe it's 15 or above. And you can't use any type of power ups or loot cards to help that dice roll. And also, the whole point is trying to find him, right? What was kind of funny on our playthrough was that in the very beginning of the game, everyone sort of builds the hex dungeon, right? Like they basically put hexes on the table randomly, however you see fit. Well, me being the most chaotic player that I know, I decided to just do one long stretch of hexes that was like 10 hexes long in order to, just to create some chaos. Again, I had no idea where was what, right? And so we were playing, we were like maybe like 40% of the game, we couldn't find the drink order or whatever. And one of my in-laws, he had committed to going to the end of this line of hexes that I had created, right? Well, I had gotten a loot card that let me look at any hex that hadn't been revealed yet. So I used it on the last hex that was on that long line of hexes, and it ended up being the drink hoard.
Bruh.
But only I knew that, right? So basically I was like, oh man, like my in-law was already halfway there. Like he hadn't like received any damage whatsoever. And so he was like set for victory at this point. And then the next turn, I ended up getting another loot card that basically allowed me to switch 2 unrevealed hexes. So I ended up switching the drink hoard right next to me, and then just a random hex to the very end of that, and that actually helped me win the game.
Crash out fuel.
But yeah, that's Heroes of Arcadia. Have y'all had a chance to play that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I played Aaron's copy. Yeah, that's the one time I played it, and yeah, I wasn't quite as chaotic as just making a long tunnel to the end of the world. I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna have like little paths and they connect, 'cause I don't want to get stuck out there. I didn't just go crazy like that. but yeah, it's funny. It's such a kind of like a take that game. You're just like all running around exploring, and then suddenly things get serious, and you're like, all right, it's time to crash out. It's time to make you lose a little HP, flip some places. Yeah, definitely like a good late night game.
Well, I actually kickstarted it, and so it came in, and I was super excited to play it. I always tell people it's a game where two things: A, it took us way longer to set up than it did to actually play the game, which I don't
Yeah.
necessarily mind, especially when we got to run it back. But I just wish there was like a way to fight each other, because it's like if you land on somebody's space, or you're not really allowed to land on somebody's space, but it's just like I wish there was just like a little bit more hater, like. You just be a bigger hater. That's what I would feel like.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, it felt very much like the object of the game was like maybe not to drink, It was more like try to avoid drinking at all costs, because when your cup is completely out of HP, then you basically have to start from the beginning of the board or the center of the hexes. And you lose all your loot cards and all your power-ups except for one or something like that. So it just kind of, it wasn't really encouraging us to drink more. It was more just trying to stay alive,
Yeah, I think that's probably preferable for some people. But yeah, I mean, for me, I actually had another drink on the side that I was sipping when I needed a tipple.
Yep. And that's Heroes of Barcadia. Victor, have you had a chance to play anything off the shelf?
Oh, yeah, brother. We got another heavy kind of beat. We played Bitoku, which came highly recommended from Aaron. So this one has been sitting on my friend's shelf of shame for a while. And, every week we're getting together and it's like, all right, what are we playing? And then we kind of go through the list of games, and then he always throws out, we could also play Bitoku. And we're like, yeah, I don't know what that is. It looks heavy. Yeah, it's a weeknight. But we finally hit it. And this game is crazy, man. Like the mechanics, it's just one of those games that's got every mechanic. I mean, I think it's really good. It's so it's a 1 to 4 player game, right? Very heavy. We played it at 3, which I think is probably a pretty good count. The designer, German Milan, the artist, Edu Valls, which I'll give a shout out. The art is Preem, published by DeVere. So this
it's
game,
a DeVere game? Okay.
yeah. On top of that, it's part of they call it the Kamushi Saga. So they have a bunch of their games that have the same setting, basically. It's the same kind of art style, the same universe. It's all very like nature focused. A little bit like Princess Mononoke vibes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, shout out to Miyazaki. He's a big fan of the pod. So in Bitoku, you're playing as a forest spirit. And now your forest has its main big spirit that's in charge of the forest. But he's getting ready to dip. He's going to, transcend this mortal coil. So over 4 rounds, each of you as a spirit is kind of establishing yourself as the best spirit in the land to take over the mantle. So you're trying to get points. And there is just so much going on. So it's a little bit of a deck builder. It's a little bit of a worker placement, and your workers are little dies. You're trying to get area majorities in different places. You're trying to gather resources to let you buy different kinds of power-ups that will either give passive powers, give you income, or give you endgame scoring bonuses later.
Okay.
But everything, is just kind of, it's very naturey in the sense that everything tends to kind of depend on something else, right? It's all like very circular. Like you need this resource to get this, to get that, to get this, to get that. So you kind of have to spread out quite a bit and do a little bit of everything. But definitely, if you can find something to specialize in, that's where you rack up the points. But, you just can't focus on one thing, right? You need a little bit of everything. And, the fact that it's worker placement too, you can take certain preem spots, block out people. And one thing that's interesting too about this one is that a lot of the places where you put workers, there's 2 spots for workers, right? So 2 different people can put a worker there, or you can put a worker there twice, on different turns.
Yeah.
But the worker, if there's already 1 worker there, the second worker has to have a value equal to or higher than the worker that's already there. Otherwise, it's massively weakened. It gets so there's 2 benefits you get, but the first benefit that you lose out on if your die isn't a high enough value is like the most lit part of putting the worker down for the most part. So it's a little bit, you can block out people, put in a high value die somewhere. So it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of going on. The art is crazy. We played it
that
once.
that board looks incredible. Like it's so colorful.
Well, not only that, but it's also just like every single spot on that board has like a purpose. Like that is probably the only point salad game that I have that I'm just like, there's a very high bar of entry. When we played it at BGG Fall 2024, I played it with 2 other people. It took us like probably 3.5 hours, only because one other person was just like, "What does this do? Oh, what does this do? Oh, how do I get this? Oh," and it's like you can only explain it so many times that it's just like, dude, you just gotta remember it. Like I can't. I know that it's a lot to keep up with, and it is a lot to keep up with, but it got real saucy when it came to like in-game scoring because I like completely popped off on they have these, so like your gods have also like these little path cards you can attach to the right of your tableau. And so like for each individual different type of god you attach, you like exponentially get way more points. So I got all 7 of them, and that was like 60 points. And they're just like, "How'd you get 60 points?" And I was like, "Well, I attached these dudes." They're like, "Oh, did you tell us?" I was like, I told you 100% of this stuff. Like I promise you I told
Yeah,
you.
I mean, I can't fault him for that because I missed that rule. So what we did is we just put up on the TV, we put like a rules explanation. So this rules explanation was like 34 minutes long. So my friend put it on 1.5 speed, and we're just listening through, and it was a tough watch, to be honest, because it's so heavy.
Was it the dude who spoke English was clearly his second language? I think he was like Brazilian. Boy.
Yeah, no, this guy was like Eastern European at
Yeah.
1.5x speed. I was like, I was struggling through it a little bit.
He was a slog.
So then we get all the way to the end, and then someone's like, so how many different kinds of gods do you have on your Bitoku? And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, each Bitoku card forming your path has a different color corresponding to a different god. How many do you have? And I was like, oh shit, I don't know, 2. And he's like, okay, so you get 2 points or something.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I get 25.
Would you say that the iconography on the board, like once you played it once, it really does help a lot?
Oh yeah, I think so. And it's one of those games that comes with like a little booklet player aid that's got all the iconography. It doesn't perfectly explain it because it's still like very complex. But I think second time around, I think you'll breeze through it.
How long was your play, Vic?
We probably started watching the rules video around 7, and we were probably done around 10:30.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so probably like 30 minutes for like rules, and then playing it the rest of the time. We looked at it, and then my friend set up the game before we got to his place.
Ooh.
He did say that the setup was brutal, but I totally missed out on that. So
Yeah.
if you can get someone else to set it up,
Cut on that time. Yeah, I mean that's pretty good for like a first time play. I feel like that's a pretty quick play, having to learn and play it on top of all that. I feel like that's pretty quick actually. No analysis paralysis.
Yeah, a little bit, because especially in the early game, we were like, we don't even know enough to be paralyzed about what to do. We're just shooting from the hip, and we're like, we all watched the same video, so like we're not gonna sit here and ask a ton of questions. So we're just kind of shooting from the hip and then kind of figure it out over time.
Cool. Well, that's Bitoku. And now our main topic, collection starter games. What games need to be in those first collections? What gets that honor? There's so many, I couldn't even choose, but I did. So for my first one, it has to be Stone Aged. It's designed by Bernd Bonhoeffer. It's 2 to 4 players. In Stone Age, basically, players are going to lead tribes of early humans, where they're gathering resources, developing tools, and, advancing the civilization by going to a love shack. It's basically set in prehistoric times. The game basically has people fighting for different spots to mine their resources, secure food, construct buildings in their player boards, be able to get these tools that will assist them with dice rolls. Basically the whole game revolves around that worker placement, right? Workers placement being, a more advanced mechanic, I would say, but still nonetheless, I think it's a perfect game for intro into that mechanic. It keeps the themes very simple. You got to have your food. You got to have your different levels of resources, wood, clay, stone, that up to gold. And, you still get to roll some dice, right? You still get to roll the dice to see how many of each resource you get. Of course, it gets a little harder depending on the resource. And then, after that, you get to, put your worker placement, or put your workers, even on civilization cards that might give you additional bonuses and stuff like that. To win, basically, the players must accumulate the most victory points by acquiring these resources, by getting points from their construction buildings, and by getting those civilization cards. That's Stone Age. It's Stone Age, it's one of those games that I fell in love with from the very beginning. Again, it's very simple, but I think it has all the beginner mechanics to start understanding how worker placement games work all around. The artwork, it's not the best, but it still has its own charm to it. I think it really just has like an iconic look to it. You see it and you're like, oh yeah, that's definitely Stone Age. I've played that game multiple times. I've definitely brought it out to, beginner players who are just starting to get into board games. And I think, again, it's just one of the perfect games to have to start off with into the worker placement mechanic.
Yeah. And like you said, it's iconic. Like when I first got into board games, it was just one of those games that we always saw like front and center at the board game store. And be like, damn, we gotta hit Stone Age. And yeah, I think the art it's like pretty simple, but I think it kind of goes well with the theme. You're like cavemen, right? You're not like all that fancy. It's like kind of simple. I think it does like the art really just plays into like how simple things kind of are, and you're just kind of like going around hammering rocks, so it feels pretty good. And I think especially for new people, the way the worker placement works, right, is you put workers down, but the workers basically make it so you can roll a certain number of dice, right? So you're kind of taking chances. So it's a little bit more like forgiving, where a pro player can't run away with the game as much because there's a little bit of dice rolling, and it just adds excitement, especially for new players, letting them roll some dice, maybe get like a crazy big roll, let the serotonin hit, get them addicted for life.
Oh, when you roll those like, let's say you have 3 workers on gold and you roll 3 6s, you're getting 3. It's like each one of your workers went to town on that gold mine, dude, and got you a gold bar, each one of them. And again, it still involves that dice rolling. It still has like something that people who are just getting into the hobby can be familiar with, but it does a very good job at introducing that new concept of worker placement. Aaron, have you had a chance to play?
I have, and you actually put me onto it. And I think that it was awesome that you did, because like that was one of the first times where I'm like, oh wow, like I'm actually like playing, in my opinion, like not necessarily like a big boy board game, but I mean, let's call it what it is. Like it is a, more seasoned board game. That's not Catan or, Ticket to Ride. And it's one of those things where it's like, if you use this to start your collection, it's always going to warrant some respect. People are going to be like, oh, if you like Stone Age, here's like other games I can recommend to you based on what you like. Like I always feel like it's hard recommending games to people who are just like, oh, I want to get into board games. Great. What do you like? Uno. Great. Like where can we kind of go from here? Or it's like, oh, I like Monopoly, and it's like, well, what part of Monopoly do you like? But when it comes to like Stone Age, it's just like, oh, you like Stone Age, bam, let's hit this Agricola, or let's try, let's see if we can get you into some Feast for Odin or something along those lines. Like you have a good foundation to start with, and it's easier to
Mhm.
recommend games based on that.
Yep, that's Stone Age. What about you, Victor?
So next, I think we gotta get people introduced to some social deduction. So, I mean, y'all might or might not agree, but I think social deduction is one of the things that really got me into board games initially. Just because board games just seem like you're just sitting around, moving a little piece around the cardboard. But then getting into social deduction, where it's like, okay, through this board game, it's up to you to lie or figure out if someone's lying in real life, basically, right? So I think the game I would put on this list for a collection starter is Spyfall, because this is one
good choice
that we played to this day, and I
yeah.
think it actually kind of popped off as an app. I'm pretty sure. I haven't played the app version, but yeah, Spyfall. It's officially 3 to 8 players. I think you probably want to have at least 4 players. Social deduction game designed by Alexander Ushan, published by Hobby World, and probably lots of people. But yeah, it's a bluffing game, deduction, party game. Very simple to explain, very simple to play with any people. So the game just consists of a couple of like bagged decks of cards, right? Each
Mm-hmm.
each deck will have a location on it, right? So you'll get one, and there's 7 cards that all have the exact same picture on it, and it might be like a casino, a movie theater, nightclub, right? They all have the same picture on it. The 8th card in the little bag has nothing on it. It just says spy and has no information about what the picture is. You hand those out. Everyone gets the picture of the nightclub. One person gets the card that just says spy. And then you just put a timer, 8 minutes, and you ask each other questions, one at a time, right? So one person will ask one person a question. They answer. They ask someone else a question. And you just go on and on like that, trying to figure out who is the spy by asking questions. But you don't want to make it too obvious what the location is, because at any point the spy can stop the clock and say, I figured out what the location is. In the middle of the table, you're going to put like the rules booklet opened up that has a picture of all the locations. There's probably like 30 or so, I think. So if you make it too obvious, if you're asking questions like, how's the music? You know, is there alcohol here? You know, they're going to be like,
Yeah.
okay, where else is it going to be? Okay, it's the nightclub. They stop the clock, say nightclub, they win the game. If they're wrong, they lose the game, because now we know they're the spy. So, you know, you're kind of asking questions a little bit more, you know, a little bit more vaguely. Like, oh, you know, would you bring your mom here? And then you could obviously answer like, oh, definitely not, right? But even that might be too obvious. So you might say, well, maybe not, right? Because you don't want to make it too obvious. The problem is, at the end of the game, you need to make sure people don't think you're the spy, because you're just going to have a vote. Majority wins. And if you get voted as a spy and you're not the spy wins again. So, yeah, it's just trying to be really, really vague, really casual, bluffing. So everyone's kind of got like a role to play, right? You're either trying to be vague about what you're saying, but at the same time, show to everyone else that you're not the spy. Or as a spy, you're just listening and sweating, and like listening closely to everything everyone's saying.
Yeah, dude. Spyfall is definitely a banger. I completely agree. It needs to be part of, everyone's collection starter set. This game just, oh man, it's like a vault of laughter. Like anytime I play this, I'm in tears, dude. Just because like people are trying to finagle their way, trying to figure out, or you're the spy and you're desperately trying to pick up clues. I will say the one thing that I feel like is really hard is when you're the spy and you're the first one to go.
Bruh,
And they
peak sweat.
ask you first. At that point, you're like, well, I have absolutely no information. I just gotta cold call it. Just gotta go for it. Just the guessing is your name. At that point. But such a good game. We played this at WopCon 2023, I believe, and we were playing, and I was a spy, and I had no idea like what the location was, right? And they had gone around once, the full circle, and it was, I believe there were 6 of us. Actually, I think it was a full 8. And there was a friend of the show's. She was
Friend of the show.
she was like, oh, I definitely don't want to give it away. And she said this out loud. She's like, I definitely don't want to give this away. So I'm just going to say, it smells like food. And there was only one location, which was restaurant. So I immediately stopped the clock, and I was like, yo, it's restaurant. It was, dude, everyone was crashing out, dude. It was hilarious.
I feel like this game is actually called Good Night of Werewolf, like One Night Werewolf. One Night Werewolf has a special place in the bottom of my heart as a game I will never play because I feel like it is a game that is like the Catan of social deduction games, where it's just like any game where you can go to sleep, wake up, and it's like, okay, well, you've been murdered. There's nothing you can do about it, and there's no data to get from this. You're just dead. Watch your friends have fun for 45 minutes. I'm just like I'm completely out on games like that. With Spyfall, though, it's like even if you get sussed out, like the game can kind of end immediately and you just like jump back into it. And like you can't get eliminated unless like you can't get eliminated. Like there's no fault. There's no fault eliminations. Where it's just like if you say nothing, you can kind of skate by, but if you say nothing and One Night Ultimate Werewolf, like you just might end up dead and like now you're a spectator.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Once they figure it out, because either side can stop the clock, right? If we figure out who the spy is 100%, we're like, we don't need to wait the full 8 minutes. Stop the clock right now. We can vote and, move on to the next round. So yeah, it's got a really good safety valve.
And it's always a certified 8 minutes. Like it'll never go over 8 minutes.
That's Spyfall. If you want to get some deduction in, try it out. Aaron, I know you got something. I know your collection out the brim. What's something people should have from the beginning?
Something people should have at the beginning is a game called Small World. So, Small World is a 2 to 5 player area control game designed by Felipe Kiarts and published by Days of Wonder. So, in Small World, players fight for conquest and control of a world that is a little too small to accommodate everybody. So, the cool thing about Small World is you start the game by picking a special race of creatures who come with their like own special traits. So, with 14 different races and 20 different traits, the replayability for this game is super, super high. And it's cool because each race and trait feels like they're just completely broken. But it's like the incredible situation where it's like when everybody's broken, nobody's broken. So the premise of the game revolves around you placing your characters on the map, and at the end of the turn, however many spaces you control is how many points you get. And so to take over a region, you have to beat the region's defense by 2. So if a region is empty, you have to put 2 homies down, and then you continue conquesting, right? But the coolest thing about Small World for me and like what really got me is unlike most area control games, you're not stuck to just like one race. So if you choose to, so like an option you can do on your turn is to go into decline, and that means you just flip over all of your homies, and then you pick a new race, new trait, and then on your next turn you just get back out there. The crazy thing is, if your declined homies are still on the board, they still score you points. So if you have like 3 declined homies like chilling, like safeguarded in the mountains, that's gonna be 3 points for the rest of the game. And so I would say like you're killing the game if you're scoring 7 to 10 points a game. So like you're pretty much like halfway there if your decline homies don't get taken off the board. So this game was cool to me because anytime I think of area control, immediately I thought of like Risk, and I was just like, Risk is legitimately just one of those games where you have a lot of small pieces. There's dice. There's like these gosh dang epic battles with choke points and stuff like that. And I'm like, this feels more like a video game that I would rather have like do all of the arithmetic and all the math and all that stuff. Plus, Risk lasts like 5 hours because based on the dice gods, like you can either wipe somebody out or like completely get routed and then have to come back. And there's too much back and forth. With Small World, battle is easy. It's contained in 8 rounds, and like every like the points, everything is just so simple and it's so streamlined and it's so fast. And I was just like, area control games should start here, and like maybe not get too far out. The battle system's super easy. It's literally just like a yes or no function. Do you have +2 on defenses? Yes or no? Great. Go there. Get points. Simple. And then like all the powers and like how you mix the powers, like sometimes you feel like you're super broken. And you're just like, yes, I'm getting like 15 points. And then somebody comes out, wipes all of your people up and gets 20 points. And it's just like, what is going on with this game? And there's a lot of political stuff where it's like, okay, so like we have to like gang up on Victor. Victor's getting too many points, he's too hot. And then like now I'm taking over. And then Victor's like, yo, Tona, we gotta get Aaron, he's too hot. So in my opinion, I
Mm,
just think it's the perfect game to kind of set the foundation for area control. And it's a good game with
interesting.
a lot of good expansions to, shake it up a little bit if you just weren't wearing out the paint on the game to make it a little bit different. So that's Small World for me. What do you guys think?
So it's funny that you chose this one because I feel like this is one of my white whales, I guess. I have I you know I know this game. It's super popular, and I've never played it to this day. In fact, we were going to play it, and by we I mean us three. We were gonna play it at BGG Con like 2019. It was I think one of y'all's first BGG cons,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Victor was gonna teach it to us.
Oh, I forgot.
And we brought it out from the library. We sat down outside of the library and we were about to play it, but it was missing like one of the main things in order to play it, so we couldn't even get it played.
Yeah, it was like missing the
Yeah,
dice.
yes, something
Yeah.
crazy. And to
Yeah,
this
something
day,
super important.
yeah, I've still not played it. So
Oh my god.
I want to play it at some point. I don't know if it'll still hit, because we've played so many different area control now, but I don't know. The fact that there's 14 different races, like that kind of really intrigues me. I feel like there's got to be a lot of replayability. I mean, like that's a great collection starter because
Mhm.
you buy this game and with that many races, I see that it has 20 unique special powers.
Mhm.
I feel like almost every game would feel very different, because
Oh yeah.
just of the combinations and everything. Would you say that that it's just that there's so much variability there? Would you say it's pretty like well balanced?
Oh, 100%. Because once again, it's just like, and it's also one of those games where the more you play, the more you kind of like gain knowledge and like knowledge transfers. Because I will tell you, I used to be a menace when it came to these skeletons. So, like in the game, a race is called like the skeletons. So, when you originally come into the game, you can kind of plop, you can kind of basically like spawn anywhere. And then from where you spawn, to where you end your next turn, that's where you spawn. So like if you go basically like 3 spaces inwards, then for your next turn, from those 3 spaces inwards, that's how you would expand. With the skeletons every single turn can just spawn anywhere, and then they just start ravaging. So, dude, there have been so many times where I've had people throwing fits because it's like they push the skeletons to the coast, the skeletons just respawn on the other coast and just start ravaging. And so it's one of those things where I think that even like no matter how many board games you play, like I feel like Small World is so good because it's one of those things where it's like you can come down so quickly because it's just like, oh, it's like, Dwellings of Eldervale, but you don't have any special races. The battles are super quick, and we can probably knock this out in like an hour and a half. It's like love it. Like if you need that area control itch, it scratches it very, very good. Plus, like the DLC adds a lot of stuff where it's like it expands on water tiles, so you can do more stuff like that. Like the DLC also or the expansions add a lot of not only new characters, which make it even more bonkers, but yeah, it just adds a lot of new stuff that makes it fun too.
Awesome. Vic, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Oh, this one was literally a collection starter for me. Like as a baby board gamer, just kind of starting to like get more serious into it, doing a little research, and just kept Small World just kept coming up like over and over again. So I bought it and like literally was like set up a game night for my birthday, and I was like, guys, for my birthday, I want everyone to come over and play Small World. And and yeah, we played it quite a bit, and I'm actually literally in a Small World game on Board Game Arena like right now, so
Wow.
if you want to get it in, you can hit it on BGA. I mean, I think like any game, it's more fun IRL. But yeah, literally the collection starter for me, one of the first kind of war games like that I would play, because I never played Risk growing up, and for some reason I always wanted to. It just seemed like it was going to be like some super cool, complex game about war. And then supposedly playing Small World, people are like, yeah, no one should ever play Risk. There's no need. You can play Small World.
100%.
You got Small World at home.
We got Small World at home. So yeah, it's literally sitting here on my shelf. I think we busted it out like not too long ago. And yeah, it just hits, because it's kind of quick. You do some battles, and you get to play as multiple races through one game, right? So every game,
Right.
there are new races that are out there. you'll get to play as like, two or three of them at least through the play. So you're always getting like lots of new stuff, and it doesn't get stale.
Aaron, would you say that this still hits the table for you at times?
So since I have so many new games and Kickstarters coming, it would, but it's definitely one of those put a hand down the ladder to like lift people up when it comes to because like
Yeah.
it seems like as I'm getting more advanced in board games, people are just like, oh, you play like 5 hour board games. I could never play anything like that. And I'm like, well, you work your way up. Like, of course, your first game shouldn't be like Innis or Terraforming Mars because then you'll just hate board games because you just don't understand how the mechanisms, like flow together. But I was just like, oh, I have like, 30-minute games, 60-minute games, 90-minute games. Like, what y'all trying to get into? And then it's one of those things where it's just like, I love when people say, oh, I really love Risk. And I'm just like, oh, you're going to love this game. And then like Small World hits the table with paying out. People can't get enough of it.
Yeah, I guess that's one I might have to hit up with y'all on BGA at least, because again, I've yet to play it, and hopefully BGA doesn't have those missing dice. So definitely got to at least try to hit that.
For a pro board gamer like you, you might not want to like take the time to like set up a board game night to play it. But yeah, on BGA, you're in and out.
Nice. That's Small World. Now, the We Are Board podcast, we have to share our 2 shared games. Aaron, you wanna hit us with the first one?
Oh my goodness, yeah. So the first of our We Are Board shared games for the collection starter section is That's Pretty Clever or Gone Schon Clever. It's a 1 to 4 dice rolling game by Wolfgang Warsch from Stronghold Games. So in That's Pretty Clever or Gone Schon's Clever, you are choosing dice carefully to enter them into matching colored area. And you put together tricky chain scoring opportunities and rack up a lot of points. However, any dice you choose not to use or that gets sent to the silver platter, your opponents get to use, and they get to pop off on those points as well. And
Pop
so
off.
That's Pretty Clever / Gonshon's Clever is probably the quickest game that I can explain to somebody. And every time I explain it to them, I'm like, this is literally serotonin in a box. Because I was like, the first time we play, you're not going to get it. Like, you're going to see me pop off these 15 to like 16 turn, like just rounds of points. And you'll be like, why can't I do that? But it's just like, you have to be in it, you have to experience it, and you have to see it for yourself in order to do it. Every time I played the first game, people were just kind of like, okay. Now that I get it, like once I realized this is how it goes, now I'm ready. And to see the light bulb and the smile go off when somebody, you know, puts in a blue, that activates a green, that activates a purple, that activates an orange, that activates a yellow, that activates another yellow. They're just like, oh my God, this game is like the greatest game ever. So, yeah, what's your guys' experience with That's Pretty Clever?
Oh man, That's Pretty Clever holds a special place in my heart. I have a pretty funny story with it. So I got it back when Roll-and Rights were like a very big hit. And I just got a whole bunch of different kinds of stuff. Roll-and Rights. Roll-and Rights basically it's exactly what it says. You roll some dice and you write it on a sheet of paper. That's kind of what That's Pretty Clever falls under. And I remember Aaron came over one day and I was like, hey, I got this new game. It's called Ganshon's Clever. This was before it got rethemed to the American version of That's Pretty Clever. And you need to try it. And kind of how he described, the first time, I showed him, we played it the first time. He was like, what? You're popping off, whatever. What's going on with me? Well, we did it again. Second time round, he just like doubled my score. He was like a savant of Ganshon's Clever. And he was like, I've unlocked a new area of my brain, and it's literally dedicated to Ganshon's Clever. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm glad you liked it, right? Well, a week later, he just like sends me a picture and he's like, hey, I'm in LA. And he was playing Ganshon's Clever in LA.
Yes.
I think you had gone to visit a friend or something, Aaron.
I went for his wedding. Yeah.
Yeah. You literally sought out like a board gaming cafe and he found Ganshon's Clever. And I was like, oh, that's that's crazy. He was like, dude, I just can't stop playing it.
Literally.
And then the next time I saw Aaron, the man had gone and gotten like Ganshon's Clever, and then like the sequel, and then the sequel after that, and he had like 5 different copies of it, and it was just like, man, my man's is really into Ganshon's Clever.
Yeah,
so
dude.
definitely, probably my favorite roll and write, and definitely perfect to get started into your collection of board games. And just like a pro tip for it, which is something I did with my copy, because you are going through that pad, right, where you have to write on it. I ended up just basically putting a film on it, so now I can just use erasable markers every time I use it, so I don't have to worry about trying to find a new pad. You just basically put that film over it, and now you just have a reusable sheet.
That
and,
laminate.
That'll that's exactly what it is. I laminated basically you can play as many players really, but I just laminated 4 because that's usually how many we play. And yeah, definitely a banger. What do you think, Vic?
Oh yeah, dude, that kicked off the roll and write genre for me. I think it was the first one that I played like that, and I was like, oh my god, dude, a whole nother mechanic unlocked. Like when a new mechanic drops in board games that like you personally haven't heard of, it's like, oh shit, like what else is there? Like I need more of this. So yeah, we were fucking wearing out the tape. One of the homies in Austin got a copy. We were playing that all the time. We got into a couple other roll and writes like that too. I think probably the one I've been into the most is Welcome To. That one's like, it's not like roll and write, it's flip and write, I guess, but same concept.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like there's a couple of the roll and writes that really stuck around, stood the test of time, and that's Ganshon.
Yeah, Ganshon's Clever. Definitely check it out. It's a good intro to roll and writes, and definitely a great one to have as a collection starter set. Vic, what's our number 2 for the WeAreBoard podcast?
All right, number 2 is another little party game for the homies to get people comfortable, because I think one of the goals for a collection starter is also like a board game group starter. So you want games that are going to get people hooked.
Oh, yeah.
So especially with if you have a lot of new players, on the opposite end of social deduction where everyone's sweating, you have cooperative games where everyone's working together, just having a good time. And for that, I recommend Just One, which is designed by Ludovic Rowdy and Bruno Soter. So it's published by Repos Production. What I just found out, which I didn't know before, is that 1 year earlier it was published by Fun Consortium, and it was called We Are the Word. But I think that one just did not pop off. It wasn't until Repos bought the rights and republished it as Just One with like better art, higher quality components that it really popped off. So Just One is a cooperative game where you're basically just trying to get as high a score as possible. Typically, you're going to set up 13 cards, go through the 13 cards, and try to get a score of 13, which would be a perfect score. But, you can play as much as you want, as little as you want. Basically, each card is going to have a word on it. It's going to have a couple words, and you kind of pick one randomly. But, so let's say you decide the word is going to be something like rap, right? One person is going to have the card propped up in front of them where they can't see it. Everyone else at the table will be able to see the word rap. So everyone else is going to write on their little dry erase thing a 1-word clue. So it's got to be one word, right? Like no spaces, nothing like that. No like sentences. Everyone's going to write a clue secretly without showing it to anybody else. Once everybody's done, they're going to compare with each other what clues they've written. Any clues that are exactly the same get removed, and the person guessing does not see it. Then everything flips. The person can see all of the clues that were unique and then has one guess to figure out the secret word in front of them, you know. So if like you have rap and like two different people put like Kendrick, they get eliminated. And then one person is like trying to like think really outside the box, you know, and puts like sheet, you know, for rap sheet. And then it turns around and the only thing the person sees is sheet, you know. It can be kind of rough. So yeah, so it's really funny because you're trying to come up with like out of the box clues that no one else will think of. But then sometimes you think of like the exact same out of the box thing someone else thought of. So yeah, it's just a fun game. You're just cooperating. And you just kind of get to see how people's brain works, right? You know, what kind of associations they make, and then if someone else can figure it out.
I think this is a perfect one because again, you're now introducing the cooperative element, right? Everyone wants to work together most of the time. And, you know, this is one of those games that every time I've played it, I mean, only just now I learned that you have to score 13 points because it's that game that we just play until we're done playing with it. Mm-hmm. It's just so fun, you know, having to write the word and trying to like be like, okay, I know I'm the only one that would think of this word. And then when you reveal with like 5 other people and like 4 of you set the same word, like it's like, why didn't anyone go with the obvious one? Like it happens way more often than not. And it's perfect. Yeah, it's so much fun. It still comes out, you know, even with like my family, like this is like a great intro to board games, but also it's great to have when you just want to have like a break from your, you know, 4-hour bitokus, you know what I'm saying? It's just, it's great.
It's a nice palate cleanser. And I actually think it's one of those games where it gets harder the more you play with your friends because it's like the more y'all like know each other and the more like inside jokes that y'all have, you're just like, oh, I know that. Like if it was like chocolate, for example, I'd just be like, ooh, my boy Vic, back in the day, he used to jam out on Tay Zonde. About to hit him with the Zonde clue. And it's like, there's 3 Zondes. And it's like, why do you all know him so well?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
It's so funny when you come up with clues like that you're just like, this is perfect. So like one time someone had shark. 2 different people put teeth, that got eliminated. 2 different people put like jaws, that got eliminated. The only clue left was baby.
Hey.
we're like, just give up, just skip. You are not guessing this fucking word. Like there's nothing wrong with that clue, but there is no way you're getting it.
Such a good game. Definitely recommend for everyone to go out and check this one out. That's just one. Hey, yo, is that a shining star? Nah, it's just a spotlight of the week.
All right, boys, enough of this collection starter. It's time to get heavy. And so in recognizing the wildfires in LA, we want to raise awareness. We're going to talk about Detective City of Angels, which is set in LA. And, you know, if you have any extra money that you can spare, if you can Venmo that to @WeAreBoard, then Tona will pocket it and keep it. So Detective City of Angels, you are a detective in 1940s Los Angeles. This game is published by Van Ryder Games, designed by Evan Derrick. So both of them are probably very well known for the Final Girl series.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
The artist is Vincent Dutrait, who has 208 artist credits on BGG. So
is that all?
The man is working. Actually, he did Unconscious Mind also.
Oh,
he did the Lord of the Rings, Duel for Middle Earth. So
nice.
He is grinding. This is a 1 to 5 player game. I think 3 to 4 players is probably the sweet spot. And yeah, this is a long one, 2.5 hours. So I think the spotlight for this one, or like the reason I want to bring it out, is because like I like been wearing out the tape on this one. Like I'm always so excited to play this one. The only unfortunate thing is, you know, it's a detective. mystery solving kind of game. So once you've solved the mystery, you can't replay it as a detective. But one player is not a detective. One player is the Chisel. And the Chisel is basically like the DM. You kind of run the game. So you know the answer to the mystery, and you're kind of controlling everything that the players interact with. So basically I'm just trying to get y'all to want to play this game so I can be the Chisel for y'all.
So how does it work when there is no Chisel though? Does it DM itself?
No. There has to be a Chisel.
Oh, okay.
Unless you play single player, it does come with an extra book where you can play it single player, and the Chisel is like this book. But if you're playing it with more than one player will play as the Chisel. So like I said, the point of the game is to solve a mystery, right? You're a detective. It's 1940s Los Angeles. It's noir.
Ooh, film noir?
Corrupt cops, mobsters.
I love it.
And what's amazing is you can really get into character, because every detective is going to get a little booklet that's going to have like a briefing on the case, right? This booklet comes also with a glossary of like noir terms. And it is long, dude. It is like 4 pages long, like 10-point font. So you can just really start talking shit. You got like hey, you're tooting the wrong ringer.
Tooting the wrong ringer is crazy.
Playing rats and mice out there with the reefers and the right G. These round heels. So it's, oh my God, dude. Like, we're just sitting there just going through this and talking mad trash while we're playing this game.
That's awesome.
But so you are you're detectives, but you're competing. You're also very corrupt, which I should mention. So you want to be the first detective to solve the case, right? In order to solve a case, you have to figure out, obviously, who did it, what the weapon was, and what the motive was. So the game starts reading out a briefing that the Chisel will read out, and it's kind of like from the police chief giving you the briefing about the case, and he's usually screaming at you like, "Hey, the mayor's all on my ass about the crime rate going up. I need you gumshoes out there and solving this case immediately." Mm-hmm. And so then first player, you just start moving around the board. You can investigate different places on the board. You're gonna get the crime scene location, so you can go and look at the crime scene. There's gonna be suspects that pop up on the board. You can go and question them. And the board is like this huge, beautiful drawing of Los Angeles, right? So the problem is there's 100 places to go on the board. So if you just pick a random place to go, you're probably gonna find nothing. But as you follow clues, you start figuring out where to go, where to search. So you can search locations, right? You can search people. One thing that the game calls out is that you do not have warrants for searching anybody, and there's not a mechanic to get them. So if you search somebody, or if you search a location, it is you basically searching without a warrant. And they're going to get pissed at you, and they're not going to like that. But hey, you're a corrupt cop. You got to solve the case. It is what it is.
It's what the politicians pay you for.
You know what I'm saying? So then the juiciest part of the game is questioning the suspects. So when you question a suspect, you're going to have, on the board, you're going to have different evidence cards that are either suspects, pieces of evidence, or information, right? So there might be an evidence card that's person A is having an affair with person B. And another card is Robert, or, some suspect in the case. So you can walk up to Robert. You find him on the map. You walk over to him, and you're like, "Hey, man, let me ask you about this affair." So the Chisel is going to look at a chart that they have in the Chisel handbook. And the chart is going to show him the possible responses that Robert will give about the affair. And one response is always the best possible response, which suspects will usually not incriminate themselves, even with the best possible answer. But the best possible answer will at least be not a lie. But they might have other answers they can give you, which are either lies or misleading. So it's up to you as the Chisel to choose which of those answers to tell them. And the way you do that is like this pretty cool like envelope. And you have this deck of cards and you slot it in the right way, and it'll show the answer that you're, choosing to show. So once you've decided what to tell the player, you secretly give that to them, and then they look at it without showing any of the other players. And now they get to make a choice whether or not they're going to challenge the suspect on that. So challenge means you don't think that's the best answer he could give you. Like this is you basically like grabbing him by the fucking shirt and throwing up against the wall. You holding out on me? So if you're right and they were holding out on you, then the Chisel has to give you the best answer. So they'll take that answer back, slide in the different card, give you the best answer, and you get some leverage on that suspect. And your leverage is a little fedora token that you have. And you put your little fedora on that suspect so that in the future when you ask them a question, you can spend the fedora to automatically get the best answer, because you got a little bit of dirt on them.
Right.
You tell them vassalize them.
Yeah. Nothing personnel, kid. So, what if you're wrong? What if that was the best possible answer already and you just beat this poor man up for no reason? Then the Chisel gets one of your fedoras on their board, and they can use that to block you from taking actions later on. So it gets real intense, because I just love giving one of the detectives an answer and just being like, hey man, you gonna challenge that? Come on, baby. I know you want to challenge that. You don't believe that. And then they have to give you their little hat if they choose to challenge. And then you're just sitting there holding it, just twirling it around like, ooh, was that the best answer or was it not? So it gets real juicy. So over time, you'll start getting answers to questions. You'll start investigating different locations on the map. And then you have a little, I don't know if you ever had those math games back in elementary school or whatever, where you had charts, where at the top is a list of things and at the left is a list of things, and then you where they link up, you would X them out or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So you basically have a worksheet like that, and then you're keeping track of everything that you've learned. And once during the game, you can put your badge on the line and solve the case, and you can be like, I think it was this person with this weapon with this motive. So you write that down secretly, give it to the Chisel. If you're right, the game ends immediately, you win. If you're wrong, the Chisel will just give you back a number telling you of those three things, how many were right. So brutal if you get back a 0. You're like, damn, I'm 0 for 3. So you don't know which things you got right. Let's say you get a 2 back. You're like, well, one thing's wrong. I don't know what. But now you've wasted your badge. You can't do that for the rest of the game. If it gets to the end of the game and no one has solved it, then we just do one final guess. Everyone writes down their final guess. And then the winner will just be decided based on reverse turn order if multiple people figure it out. But yeah, that's where it gets really tasty. Is at the end you start reading the epilogue, which will usually be kind of a long description of all the characters and what happened. And then as you're listening to the epilogue being read, you'll slowly start to find out oh, I was right or I was wrong. So yeah, just a lot of investigating, deducing. You can kind of role play a little bit, just start talking your 1940s slang. Yeah, I'm just trying to get y'all to hit this game.
Yeah, so I have so many questions. So, like, immediately, I love the fact that it's got this, like, LA noir type vibe, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah.
And so, it sounds like it's mad thematic. Like, is that the case? Like, you just feel like you're in it?
Yeah, I think because you get to move around the board and, explore Los Angeles a little bit. And you're very free to do stuff, right? You're very free to move anywhere you want on the board. And then you can go up to any character and ask them about any card in the game, right? So it feels, it's not like so board gamey, right? You're not like necessarily just stacking points or anything like that, right? You're like, I literally need to figure out this crime, so I need to ask this person about this and that.
Yeah. And, based off of that, right, you're trying to figure out this puzzle. Like, how long would you say, like, a typical game is?
It depends on the case a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Each one will have on it a difficulty. So there's 3 difficulties. I think probably the easiest ones will probably be under 2 hours, maybe 1.5 hours, including like setup. Setup takes a little bit, and then probably like add like another hour and a half for the really hard cases. But if someone figures it out, they could end it like at any point.
What do you think are the chances of somebody just like big braining it like that? Like, how do you feel? Like, do you feel like the cases themselves are intricate enough to where you kind of can't luck into things?
Well, you can't necessarily luck into things, but the chances of you big braining something are very high. We've had multiple instances of someone big braining something like so crazy that we were just like, dude, like you probably cut the game in half. I don't think we were supposed to know about that yet, but you just put 2 and 2 together.
Dude, you should be a real detective.
Yeah, like I remember the very first time I played with one of our friends. So a couple of my friends, we had played it a couple times already, and we introduced another friend to it. But he's big into detective type things, like detective, like mystery animes and all that. Like that's his thing. I think Danganronpa is like a mystery visual novel or something like that. So he's huge into that. We were like, oh, you're gonna love this. So we started playing one of the cases, and there was this kind of like small thing that they mentioned in the briefing about like one thing that the killer, like he had some sort of like trait or something like that, almost like a little throwaway thing. And then he was like, I think that relates to the types of like locations on the board. So he just started looking around the map and finding things that matched. And we're just like, yeah, I don't know. None of the games have worked like that. That's not how the game works. You have to go like question and like get clues and evidence. And he just went to a location and searched it. And it was like, you find like the murder weapon or something. We're like, what? Oh my God.
Wow. Okay, so there are ways to big brain it then.
Yeah, for sure.
You just got to look for it. So from your description, Victor, this reminds me of time stories. Basically future traveler, you go back in time to change how something happens, but again, you're trying to figure out what happened, right? And I mean, we played a lot of that, us 3, through the OG WobCons way back in the day. How does it compare to that? Would you say that it's a lot better? It's not the same at all? What would you think?
I mean, I'm a massive time stories simp. I can't lie. I think I've played every single time stories from like the original game, because they've changed it now. So like you used to be able to buy the base box and then buy individual like stories. I've played every single one of those. They've actually moved on now to like a different system. But I would say it's very similar vibes, right? In that like you're kind of free to explore things. There'll be things that are kind of out of the box, right? In each case, similar with time stories, where like each one kind of you have like these base mechanics, and then each case kind of tries to do something a little different, something kind of unique. So it's a little bit like that, but the one difference is that this one is competitive, right? You're not cooperating with the other detectives. One thing that's very spicy is that when you find evidence as a corrupt cop, you're just gonna pocket it. You're gonna keep the evidence for yourself. So everyone will see,
Nice.
like, oh, he found evidence card G and just kept it. So you're so the police requires you to turn in evidence within 3 days. So you're going to turn it in 3 days later, like at the last possible moment. And so that's another element I didn't talk about, is that you have money because, you know, you're a corrupt cop, so you can roll up to a mob joint and be like, "Yo, man, where my little kickback?"
Yeah.
And you know,
With my little
you get
tariff.
well, tariff. So you get some money, and you spend that money to bribe the other players. So you can either, if you can walk up to the same space as that player, you can give them money so that they show you any evidence they have that you don't have. Or you can pay extra to go to like a police station and get it from like a junior detective or whatever. It costs more, but then that money doesn't go directly to the other player. So there's a lot of that where like you're kind of racing to find information first and hoard it so that other players can't get it, or they have to pay you for it. So it's more competitive than Time Stories.
I like that. I like the spiciness
Literally
level
just
of
start
that.
grifting. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it seems like they also have a lot of expansions for it. You said you had all of them?
I have the first 3 that came out, because basically we finished almost all the cases in the base game, which has a lot of cases. It has like,
Even in just the base game?
yeah, it comes with like 10
Okay.
cases, I think.
Oh,
So
that's good.
We had
That's
finished
awesome.
almost all of them, and I was like, man, we're running low. So I went and bought the 2 expansions, and we finished most of those now as well. So they came out with another expansion last year. In 2022, they also came out with an expansion. I don't know if that one's like only French or something. Based on the description, it seemed like maybe it only works with the French version of the game. I'm not sure.
I see.
But they came out with one last year called Saints and Sinners, so I'm about to re-up so I can get back into it.
Well, yeah, that's awesome that there's a lot of replayability even just with the base game, and I think it speaks a lot to this game that it keeps hitting your table. You know, when you have like a dedicated group over where you're at, and you know it seems everyone in your group has their own board game collection as well. The fact that this one keeps hitting it, you know, from your description, I couldn't even see this being like a couple game night type of thing where like everyone dresses up to fit the bill.
Yeah, and one thing too with this game, like, it's not replayable, right? And that you can't replay it, but I could play with you guys where I'm the Chisel and then you guys are the detectives. And playing as a Chisel is a ton of fun. You know, it's not just like, oh, I'm just over here just like moving the decks of cards around or whatever. Like, because you're basically watching the other people struggle to figure out the case, and you get to pick how the NPCs respond to everything they say. So there's kind of 2 ways to play as the Chisel. You can play to win, where the Chisel technically wins if no detective solves the case. So you can just play hard ass mode and, you know, make the case as hard as possible. Or you can try to make it more like DM style, right? Where like each character you try to like respond how they would honestly respond. But yeah, I mean, I think both ways can be fun. You know, it kind of supports both ways.
So have you played the Chisel mostly when you play this game, or?
Yeah, I think I've mostly been the Chisel, because like usually the Chisel is the person who like knows the rules. So like the first couple games, I think I was always the Chisel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've played as a detective multiple times now. You know, once everyone else got used to it, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Well, we're gonna have to try it because that definitely sounds like something I would love to play.
Spicy.
I love puzzles like that. Yeah, and if it'd be awesome to just kind of role play into it and talk like the 1940s, eh?
Yeah. It's always funny that we say, like, yeah, because I'm like, I don't know if those are like Boston or New York, but those are like completely different coasts.
Well, that's Detective City of Angels. If you have a chance, get a chance to get it. Choo choo! It's that BG hype train. Gotta back another one.
All right, y'all. So we got two games coming to y'all on the choo choo hype train. So the first one is Bullet Cube, the newest expansion to Bullet, the 1 to 8 player sensation from Level 99 Games on GameFound. Tona, what do you feel about this?
Man, when I saw it, I was like, Aaron, you gotta get it on the BG hype. The people need to know. So, Level 99 Games, they are the owners when it comes to anime in BGG.
Millennium Blades, Argent the Consortium, BattleCon, Level 99 when it comes to like anime based games, they are the pinnacle. They are the cream of the crop when it comes to this stuff.
Yep. They love their anime and they love featuring it in their board games. So I actually was recommended Bullet, Heart. So even their naming conventions for these games are a little bit unique. It's literally Bullet with the heart emoji. That is literally the board game name. And then they came out with another game called Bullet with a star emoji. And if you go on BGG, that's literally how you have to type it. You have to put that heart emoji in order to be able to see it. It's designed by Joshua Van Lanningham. It's 1 to 4 players. So what is Bullet? What is so great about it? So Bullet, heart, basically you step in as a powerful heroine, okay? Each one of these heroines has their own ability. And basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to destroy this incoming barrage of energy bullets, okay? Basically think of Candy Crush. You know how in Candy Crush you have to line up specific types of candy in order to destroy them? That's basically what Bullet is in real time. So basically you're playing against the people that you, or let me rephrase that. You are fighting against the people you're playing with. So when they get these combos, they send all those bullets into your play area. So you're just trying to survive and be the last one alive. And honestly, it is so much fun. A game lasts like 15 minutes and it's real time, and it's you're just trying to use your heroine ability to be able to succeed. And every single character has a different ability, so they all do something a little different. The quality of the game is great, but why this is so awesome is because they've come out with like 6 expansions and they're all in this like tight little boxes. So now I have like all these expansions with different heroines that are just like sitting on my shelf. And I always kept thinking like, man, it'd be great if there was a way for me to be able to store all these different players in just one box. Well, I guess I wasn't the only one complaining, because right now on GameFound, Bullet Cubed has finally come out. Basically, they've, just like Level 99 Games true fashion, they've come up with this wild concept of this very unique looking box. We'll see if it survives, the prototypes and the testing and the crash testing. But basically what they promise is that this box will be able to hold both Bullet Heart and Bullet Star and all of its expansions into this one box. And not only that, one thing about the game, if you buy it retail, it comes with cardboard bullets. That's what they call those circular pieces. But if you truly want to experience the game at its full potential, you have to get the wooden deluxe bullets. Basically, they slide way easier on your player boards, but they're extra. It's a luxury thing. And let me tell you, there's no way it fits currently in any of those boxes, because like the box itself is like very big and you need at least 2 of them. So this GameFound GameFound thing that they're coming out with, it's going to be this box that's able to hold everything. I'm so excited. I don't usually splurge just for storage, but for this game, definitely worth it. Have y'all heard of Bullet?
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Bullet. I knew nothing about it. I just kind of saw like the art and the kind of description. And then I think we were planning on WebCon, and I saw it was on Tona's library, and I was like, "Hey, yo, my man's got everything." So I was like, you need to bring that to WebCon, and we need to hit that. And I think that got put on the table like I think 3-4 times that WebCon. I think other people saw us playing it, and they were like, "We need to hit that." But yeah, that's like a ton of fun to play with the homies. I've only played Bullet Heart. I haven't played Bullet Star. But I'm not gonna lie, I kind of cooked in this game. Like something about it, I just took to it. I was just right up my alley.
Have you gotten a chance to play it, Aaron?
I have not. Y'all, so I don't know if there's any Nintendo 64 heads out, but when y'all described it, y'all were just like, oh, yeah, it's almost like Pokemon Puzzle League. And I was like, oh, I used to cook in that game. But yeah, I haven't played it yet, but I am excited to play it. So once the Cubed Edition comes out, we might have to have like a smorgasbord of playing.
Yeah, yeah, and it's something I like about it a lot too is that like it has different modes, kind of like it sticks to that arcade theme type of thing where like you have like the free for all that I kind of described in the beginning where it's like, it's a head to head last one standing type of thing, but then you can also do like teams. You can basically also do like a solo mode, which games don't have solo these days. But then there's also one that's called Boss Rush where one of you takes control of like a boss version of a character, and then everyone else is trying to take down this like powerful boss form. So like there's just like so many different ways to play it. I'm always surprised that it's like very underrated. Like people don't really like talk about it a lot, but it's probably one of my favorite level 99 games. Definitely one to check out. It's currently live on GameFound, and I definitely recommend y'all to go check that out.
The one thing though about getting like a big storage thing like that is I did the same thing for Wingspan, because I've been a huge Winghead, had a bunch of expansions. I got the big old box, and now the box is great, but it's trapped in my house. Like it's not transportable.
It doesn't travel well.
It does not travel. I have like a board game bag, and I'm like, if I put that in the bag, it's the entire bag.
That is the board game bag.
Just buy a new board game bag, dude.
Buying you a bigger board game bag. Yeah, that's Bullet Cubed. Aaron, what else you got?
So, last but not least, we have a little game called A Place for All My Books. This is a cozy board game about collecting good books and the joy from organizing them, currently live on Kickstarter. So, in A Place for All My Books, 1 to 4 players will casually compete against one another to gather and sort out their book collection based on the self assigned little project cards they start the game with. You'll organize your books on your shelf, and when you accomplish a little project, you'll then get a chance to admire the books, giving you joy and charging your social battery. With enough charged social batteries, you'll venture out of the house and head through town to not only collect more books, but additional trinkets to help add to the zen of your little projects. So, this is what I feel like is going to be a start of games that are literally like Lo-Fi Chill, the board game, where not only does the art look like that lo-fi chill girl, and if you're not into that or you don't see that, it's like an upgraded Earthbound or Pokemon feel. Like it's got that. Oh, Stardew Valley, like that's what it reminds me of. It's Stardew Valley. And it also seems like one of those games where you can play it in like 30, 45 minutes. It's pretty chill. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of player interaction. The books themselves look pretty cool, like from a token standpoint. And all in all, it just looks like a pretty cozy little puzzle game. Y'all mess with puzzle games? What do y'all think about this one?
Yeah, it looks definitely. Is it supposed to be like a micro game where it's a lot smaller than most games? I mean, based off the pictures, that's the vibe I'm getting. And I mean, $50 for the quote unquote deluxe version of the game. I mean, that's really unheard of. I I don't remember the last time I ended up paying $50 for a board game, be it even on sale, I should say. So that sounds like a pretty depending on the gameplay, but yeah, definitely seems like a good price for like what you're getting.
Yeah, the box is actually a little book too, just so on theme. I gotta say, man, I think uh, as soon as we're done recording, I'll probably show this to my girlfriend, and I will almost definitely be backing this. So I've been sold.
Yeah, and again, it seems like such a portable game. You know, I mean, it's like taking a book. Like if you can take a book somewhere, and it's a micro game like this, uh, it sounds worth it. I mean, for $50, I'm definitely.
And not only that, it comes with like other cute stuff. So it's like Victor said, it comes like book sized, and then like it has one of those like cardboard covers that go over the book. Like I think that if you ever go to like Marshalls or Home Goods, they've made these wooden monopolies and Scrabbles and all that kind of stuff. Like they have like the hardcover that you gotta slide up and out in order to take out the game. So that's a nice little like that has good shelf presence. And I feel like having a good diverse shelf presence gives to just like a really good looking game collection. You know what I mean? Because like you have your puff pieces, like my puff pieces are Hegemony, Veiled Fate right now. Yeah, those are like the main two. Where it's like those are the games that are faced forward in the Calyx. And it's like, yeah, those are meant for like 4 to 5 games, but like this is your premier game. You know what I'm saying? So you got to show that face up. But with a game like that, like with a place for my little books, it's like if you could add to those, I guess like the sideways, like that sideway profile. I think that's just nice because it adds like a little bit of diversity to the aesthetics of your games.
It's a really good point about the cozy games, and like that niche has been like severely underexplored in board games, I think. So yeah, this is the start of a wave.
Yeah, and I'm definitely getting that Stardew Valley vibe you were talking about, and I mean it's not a bad thing at all. I think in fact it'll probably draw a lot of people in because it's just like y'all have been saying. It's very cozy, and you know something kind of funny about this campaign is I didn't even get to the standard edition because I was just like blown back by the deluxe edition, but the standard game itself is $35.
Yeah.
So like if you don't care for the deluxe things, even the standard edition at 35, which if you look at the shipping, they're saying it's $17 regardless of standard or deluxe. It's like, well, might as well go deluxe if you're going to be spending 17 on shipping, you know. But it's from, Smirk and Dagger. They made Night Cage. So you know that at least they will probably deliver on the Kickstarter. You're not gonna get left in the dust, back in this one because Night Cage is a huge game. They've known they can definitely deliver on their promise. So it's coming from someone reputable in the BG community. So that's an interesting choice. I definitely something to look for. So
Yeah, and I also feel like this is like we talked about this earlier in the series where it's like when there's like what's the animal niche like animals are good to break down good social issues and kind of like ease people into board games. I feel like this art style and just kind of how they're doing the Kickstarter with like the bookmarks and like all of kind of just like how they're promoting it is like this is like more of a soft game. I could see this game coming out for like the crowd that likes tea and crumpets, or they like coffee. Like like this is a game that I would assume shows up at like those indie coffee clubs. You know what I'm saying? Or book clubs, all that kind of stuff. And I feel like when you're trying to
definitely.
engage those kind of gamers, I feel like once again high tides rise all ships. So it's like the more people we can get into our hobby, like I love it. Like if this is what's gonna flip the switch on either someone's girlfriend or someone who's like really really into books and like brings an entirely different genre of people into the sport like into the sport into the hobby, I'm all for it. So stuff like this gets me really jazzed, not only about board games in general but like the future of board games and what it could be.
Definitely a place for all my books. Go check it out. Thanks for tuning in to We Are Bored Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode and found a little inspiration for your next game night. For more board game content and episode show notes, visit our website, wapod.com, where you'll find everything you need, including updates and more. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, WeAreBoard, for reviews, playthroughs, and extra content. You can also connect with us on Instagram at WeAreBoard for updates, behind-the-scenes fun, and all the board game eye candy you can handle. Until next time, keep playing, keep exploring, and remember, every roll, deal, and turn tells a story. What's yours?